Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Jules, here for WhatCulture.com, joined as ever by fellow egg Andy Murray. Andy, how are you today?
Very well, my fellow deep-fried chum.
Oh, I see you holding off on the intro because that is right, it is time for another episode of... And we're back in the room, there we go. I mean, that is some spicy intro right there. Yeah, that right. It's time for us to basically sit down, take 5, because we picked 5 entries, very clever marketing that, and we're just gonna have a little chat with each other about some of the weirdest stuff that happens in wrestling. And today's episode is on the weirdest gimmick matches that were just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, so we have picked 5 absolute treats from the vault, and to be clear, there are so many other options we could have picked here. What we're going to do is we're going to shy away from on a pole matches because honestly there are about 30 different on a pole matches that we could include. Viagra on a pole being one of my personal favourites.
What?
Yeah, that happened. Judy Bagwell on a forklift.
Oh, that's the classic.
Of course,
that's
the OG
the classic.
from New Blood Rising, my favourite pay-per-view ever.
Were they all done by Vince Russo?
Yes, he was the main proponent.
Wow.
The main proponent of the on a pole match, and we've got a Vince Russo classic in this list, but we'll get to that. We're also going to shy away from crazy Japanese death matches because there are, again, so many of them. It would make for a really boring list if we had just 5 variations on the anus explosion death match. That is a thing, believe it or not.
How mental is it that we exist inside an industry where anus explosion and the words boring were used in the same sentence?
I know, right?
But there we go. So who's going to kick this off then? Is it you that's kicking it off?
I'm going to kick this off for you, and I've got a real so bad it's good classic here.
Okay.
I've got the Chamber of Horrors from WCW Halloween Havoc 1991.
Right, okay, need to stay out here that I wasn't a huge watcher of WCW back in the day. Basically, my first incursion with them was the invasion angle that the WWF brought in with that. So, what the hell's happening in this?
So basically, it's a wacky cage.
Right.
That the goal of it, basically, is to literally murder a member of the opposing team. You had to strap them into an electric chair and pull the lever. So basically WCW were killing someone on air in kayfabe, obviously. The person had to be fried, and it was an absolute shambles. Basically, the main problem with this match was that
besides the fact that they're committing murder on screen.
Exactly. Besides the fact that they're killing someone, is the cage was entirely too small. It was really crammed in, and I'll just list the dudes that were in it because there are some beefy boys.
Right.
We had El Gigante, who was Giant Gonzalez in WWE.
Quite tall.
Yeah, 7'7".
Yeah.
Sting, the Steiner brothers, 2 beefy lads.
Wait, is this before or after Scott had ate his vitamins?
Yeah, drank his Kiora.
Yeah.
They're big boys.
Oh, okay, fair
Abdullah
enough.
the Butcher, Diamond Stud Scott Hall, so pre-Razor Ramon and all that.
Right.
Vader.
Wow.
And Cactus Jack. So there were a couple of major problems with this. They filmed the whole thing on something called Refer-I Cam.
Oh,
the referee
I'm a big fan of that
camera.
pun.
It's a great pun.
Yeah.
It's a great pun, but it made it borderline unwatchable. This shaky little thing just buzzing around the place. He could barely get around. The wrestlers could barely get around because the cage was so goddamn small. They could barely execute any kind of move. And the finish is one of the best botched finishes of all time. So basically what happens is...
They botched the finish.
They botched the finish to the chamber.
Okay.
What happens is Abdullah the Butcher, the big lad, accidentally gets electrocuted.
What do you mean accidentally?
He accidentally dies on air.
Whoopsie, slap on the ribs, bit awkward.
So the handle that controlled the electrocution falls down, and Cactus Jack, the poor git, God bless Mick Foley, has to go all the way back and pull it back down, and accidentally Abdullah loses the match by electrocution.
Wait, so who was meant to lose the match?
Lord knows.
But Abdullah wasn't meant to do it.
It's just an absolute shambles of a thing. Honestly, I think the best way, if you've never watched much WCW in your time, the best way to go back and experience it is to watch all these so bad they're good moments, because there are so many of them. I've saved a very special one for later.
That just sounds utterly ridiculous.
So that's the Chamber of Horrors, baby.
Right, well, I'm going to talk about something that's equally stupid. And when I say to you, like, have you ever been bored by a Royal Rumble match? The answer is no, by the way, because they're always entertaining no matter how much they're sitting in the corner gassed out after 5 minutes. But Vince Russo, God rest his face, has decided that he would basically put his own stamp. He put his own stamp on it. And when he was doing TNA, he decided to do the reverse battle royale.
That. Okay,
so you remember watching this?
Yes.
So 18 men, instead of having to be thrown out of the ring, had to try and get into the ring, which meant that you had these ridiculously crap shots because all the actions was spilled outside, so the cameramen knew nothing what was going on. And you had like ring veterans like Road Dogg and Billy Gunn in this match. It was just on a generalised episode of TNA Impact, forgetting forgetting to get into the ring.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was insane. I mean, like the Royal Rumble stuff with people like struggling to put people over the top is quite silly in itself. But men literally struggling to walk into the ring because it's so contrived. This stipulation is just absolutely absurd. I mean, it's not like the outright silliest stipulation, but it is one of the most ridiculous because the concept is just... Why, Vince Russo, why did you do this, man? I know you watch all our videos.
Right, there's a visceral pleasure of watching somebody get chucked out of a ring.
Yeah.
There isn't as much as just seeing somebody go in under the bottom rope. I'm sorry, it's just like when you've got fans who were literally in attendance on that night just going, get in the ring.
Yeah.
You're like, even I could probably, on a good day, get into the ring. I mean... this match is actually borderline unwatchable, and to make it matters worse, I think they revived it for Bound for Glory 2007. I was about to say, that's probably the worst thing, is that Vince sat there and he was just like, that's good enough to go on a pay-per-view. Book it. Yeah, so yeah, it was awful, but the gimmick itself was just absolutely absurd.
It was absurd, it was ridiculous, and may we never speak of it again until the inevitable list along these lines.
Zip, zip.
Zip, zip, zip.
Zip, zip, zip.
So, speaking of mental, this is a good kind of mental though. This is, you'll notice a theme with the matches I picked. They are all so bad they're good.
Oh, okay.
Tag Team Apocalypto.
Oh, from the TNA non-stop deletion?
Total non-stop deletion. So, this was December 2016. This was around about the point that maybe some of the Broken Hardy stuff, maybe the hype had just kind of started to wear off.
Okay.
And then this happened. So this was a special episode of Total Non-Stop Deletion was a special episode of Impact. It aired live from the Hardy compound known as the Dome of Deletion. There was all kinds of really stupid stuff on that show. In one match, King Maxwell, who's Matt Hardy's like 3-year-old son or whatever, I can't remember who he beat. I think it was Rockstar Spud.
He pinned someone, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then Rockstar Spud, who would also go on to become Drake Maverick, who would also go on to piss his pants. So
yeah, quite a career that.
Not even the lowest point of his career, I'd say, being pinned by a 3-year-old.
So basically, Tag Team Apocalypto was like the apex of the Hardy crazy tag team matches. It was a wild brawl around the compound in night. Production team went all in, and it's absolutely hilarious. It lasted almost the length of the whole show. It kept coming in and out. And it was the Hardys defending their Impact Tag Team Championships against the Decay and a bunch of other teams.
So was it like they had the whole night to defend these belts? So it was like 24-hour rule, but just for this?
Basically, until someone got.
And they went the whole episode.
Yeah, they went pretty much the whole episode. It was a long-ass match. Anyway, there was so much wacky stuff that happened in this match. I'm going to list it to you.
Oh, you got it there. Okay, fair enough.
I've got it all here because it's absurd. So at one point, Crazy Steve, who was a wacky clown, by the way.
I love Crazy Steve because he was effectively what that guy Kazani would have been if he actually got a run with it. Yeah, but good.
He fell into a volcano.
Brilliant. I thought you were going to ease me into this, but when you start with somebody falling into a volcano, go on then.
A bunch of Southern indie wrestlers, including Colby Carino, Steve Carino's sons, were murdered by the Decay.
Oh, along with Abdullah the Butcher.
Right. Ricky Morton, tag team legend, got stuck on a cherry picker, one of those big crane things. Road Warrior Animal turned up just to laugh in his face when that happened.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know, it was without context, it was absurd. Jeff Hardy, because he's Jeff Hardy, jumped off a bunch of very high things.
Cool.
At one point, Matt and Hurricane Helms literally bury Trevor Lee with shovels and dirt and Andrew Everett.
And then they turned to the camera and said something like,
"The man with 3 H's, wonder what he'll think of this burial."
And they literally turned and did a pose, didn't they?
It was absolute quality.
Love that.
Earlier in the match, they attacked Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett with fireworks. And at one point, a dilapidated boat, Skarsgård, breaks up a pinfall. And to make matters even worse or better, the whole thing concludes with Rebby Hardy announcing she's pregnant. So that's Tag Team Apocalypto. It really is something you need to experience.
It's funny because I've watched that, and all of that, you're bringing back the memories, and I'm just like, okay, no, I definitely did watch that, but I have put it into a special corner of my mind, never to be awoken again, because my mind would not accept that it existed.
That's the best way to do it.
Unfortunately, one thing that I do remember is my next choice. 1999 was a big year for wrestling. Stuff happened, but mainly to the Big Boss Man, because in that one year, right, he was hanged. He chopped up a man's dog, Al Snow's dog,
Pepper, the Chihuahua.
and fed it to him in Chile. Yeah. And then he stole the Big Show's dead dad's casket from his funeral. And then he appeared in the Kennel from Hell match, which is what we're going to talk about. I cannot believe that 1990, the man, he's the second biggest man in wrestling.
Second best big man in pro wrestling.
Now you know, but still, he deserves like a lifetime achievement
He
award for that.
100% does, man. Like, as an aside, like I've been watching a lot of the 1992 episodes of Superstars that got uploaded recently.
What a random thing to say.
But Big Boss Man on those is so awesome.
Yeah.
He's just murdering these jobbers and he looks so good. And then you fast forward to 1999 and he's in the Kennel from Hell.
But this is, right, so if you don't know what this is, it's a widely laudedly terrible match type where there's 2 cage structures and the winner between him and Al Snow, you had to get out of both structures. But in the middle, in the no man's land, literally no man's land, because instead of man, there were dogs. Technically, there were their handlers as well, but there were dogs, meant to be vicious dogs that Mick Foley and Kevin Kelly on commentary were constantly saying were vicious attack dogs that were going to rip the people apart if they went into that thing there. And then the camera would cut to them and they'd be asleep or taking a piss.
Yeah.
They were the best behaved attack dogs I've ever seen.
A couple of them.
Were they fornicating? Were they getting on? Oh, giving a new term to the word jobber.
Hey, so these vicious attack hounds were too busy pissing all over the place and having a wee shake.
But it was awful as well because the crowd couldn't actually see what was going on in the ring because it's
damn cages.
Because that's the thing. If you put 2 cages on top of each other and they're not linked up properly, they're like it looks like you're viewing through a mesh. It's just the crowd were about as responsive as the Lafayette crowd were on the NXT call-ups this week. So, but I can't blame them because the action in ring wasn't really much to write home about.
It was atrocious, and these 2 talented workers really got shafted. That whole feud was kind of hilarious.
To quote you, pish.
Absolute pish.
Absolute pish.
A
But
hurricane of pish.
Moving on to our final point.
Our final point is a match I know you've not seen.
I've not seen this one at all.
And
but you have
this is
told me what it
literally
is.
one of my favourite matches of all time.
Okay.
Because it is a calamity. I am, of course, talking about the Doomsday Cage match from WCW Uncensored 1996. This is a beautiful symphony of bollocks. It is a so bad it's good classic.
So you got your regular cages, you got your Hell in a Cells. What makes the Hell in a Cell, the cage, the Doomsday Cage?
Triple tier, baby! And you have all these guys.
I'm glad you waited until we were on camera to tell me that because.
So when you
wait, 3 tiers up?
Yeah. So when you that's not even the most ridiculous thing about this. So this was a handicap match.
Okay.
And it pitted Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage against the Alliance to End Hulkamania. Do you want to know who that consisted of?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Ric Flair.
Okay.
Arn Anderson, so far so good.
Yeah,
Lex Luger. Kevin Sullivan. Meng, who is of course the father or friend of the
Okay,
channel.
we're going downhill quite quickly now.
The Barbarian.
Okay, hit rock bottom.
Z Gangster.
Oh, wait, went further down.
Who played Zeus in WWE. And you're going to like this one.
Oh.
The Ultimate Solution.
Wow, they had a wrestler called the Ultimate Solution.
He was technically a non-wrestler, but for the purpose of this, he was indeed a wrestler. So
what was his gimmick? Being horrible?
Being a genocide. This is another match that really I just kind of have to take you through a bullet point trip of everything that was wrong with it.
Sorry, I'm just grasping around the whole. That you have quite possibly the top tier caliber of wrestling talent.
Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan,
yeah, at least in drawing power alone. And then you've got down at the bottom Zeus and a man who loves genocide.
So do you want to know the best thing about the Ultimate Solution? And that's actually number
one.
There's
a good thing?
Well, they had to rename him to the Ultimate Solution because they originally called him the Final Solution.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Oh,
and then they realised,
Christ.
hey, okay, yeah, no, that was genocide.
At what point they were like, yeah, that's good, that's good. Somebody walks past. By the way, do you guys remember that horrendous atrocity? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Still keep half of the name though.
Avoid that.
Anyway, right.
So anyway, that was point number one of my little bullet point breakthrough of why this is so bad. So Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, probably the most talented wrestlers in that match, they were treated as like Streets of Rage level goons. They were knocked off really early before Savage and Hogan progressed through this army of idiots. And that isn't even a metaphor, by the way, the Streets of Rage thing. And Arn Anderson turned up dressed as a ninja. Arn Anderson, the most old school of old school wrestlers in these black pajamas who looked wrestling. So
I thought you were going to say that he kicked over a bin and found a chicken in it, but no,
he might as well have.
Okay.
So at one point, Hulk Hogan tries to kind of Irish whip Lex Luger into the ropes, except there are no ropes. so Lex Luger just kind of glitches out like it's a video game. Heroic babyface Hulk Hogan casually attempts to murder Kevin Sullivan by kicking him off some scaffolding.
Right.
Very honourable behaviour there.
Yeah.
90% of the action, if you can even call it that, is basically just piss-weak punches and kicks. It felt like it was really controlled by a toddler getting to grips with their first game console because there's no room, and when you're on these cage structures, it's so wobbly, the floor.
Yeah, because I imagine it's still the mesh flooring, isn't it?
Imagine going through 2 of those bad boys, you would literally die. To make matters even worse, none of the participants knew the rules. So there's a bit towards the end where Hogan, Savage, Mr. Solution, and Mr. Z Gangster just kind of amble towards the ring and walk around as if they're lost and they don't really know what they're doing. It really brings the curtain down. The arena, for some reason, WCW just cloaked the whole thing in darkness, which was probably for the best because this thing's borderline unwatchable unless you're absolutely hammered, which I usually am. Lex Luger at one point goes to punch Ric Flair. Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair has him held back. Hogan ducks.
I was about to say he better do because he's the Hulkster.
He does, and Luger just totally stalls, botches the spot completely and punches. So he's like kind of like this. Oh, wait, you've ducked. I'm gonna punch you anyway, mate.
Wait, what? So there's a pause, and then he just goes.
Oh yeah, I've messed this up. Bang.
My Christ.
Ed Leslie, the booty man, as he was known as at this point, saves the day. He runs in with a frying pan to save his mate Hulk Hogan.
What the hell?
So with all these wrestlers in the match, with Z Gangster, with Meng, Kevin Sullivan, the Ultimate Solution, who do you think takes the pin, mate? All these jobbers in the match, who do you think takes the pin?
Well, it's got to be. Well, it can't be the booty man because he runs in. So I'm imagining Zeus, like
Ric Flair.
No, he's not.
Ric Flair.
You're absolutely pulling my leg there.
The consensus greatest wrestler of all time at the end of all this takes the pin, and that's the Doomsday Cage.
I'm not even finding this funny anymore. I'm quite fuming. I'm actually annoyed that you told me about this match.
It is an absolute delight. I think if you watched it at the time, when I was 10 years old, I wasn't watching WCW. If you watched it with this at the time, I imagine you would have been very upset. But watching it now, man, it is an absolute treat. You've really got, that's just the greatest hits I've taken you through there. There are so many other little nuggets to unpack with this thing. I'd love to see a Doomsday Cage in 2019.
I barely got myself around the War Games thing, even though that's fantastic. But I'm just saying that cage structure type and that level of booking needs to die in a fire.
It does.
Anyway, right. So that has been the most absurd gimmicks. I feel worn out after that. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it at the beginning, but now I feel angry
about it.
What
I'm going to go and do? I'm going to watch Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat to wash all this away.
There we go, there we go. So let us know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. I hope you've enjoyed this new episode of Take 5 with these. Yeah, that's right. We know who we are and what we do.
We're capable of.
But yeah, if you'd like to follow us and chat more about more absurd things in wrestling, you can follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter, and
you can follow me at Andy H. Murray over on Twitter. My patter is very good.
But until then, I've been Jules.
I've been Andy.
You have been awesome, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye!